I was born in a Christian home and went to church regularly, though my parents usually didn't go with me. Then I would say I became a Christian around the age of 10 when I thought through what the world was about to a 10-year-old's mind and converted. I was a intermediate student in high school. You'll be somewhat surprised to know that in the United States, at least when I went to high school, I think I managed maybe an hour's worth of homework for the 3 years of high school. I was bright, yes, but not very much was required. The first college I attended was Northwestern, and I met my wife there. We both were in Los Angeles, and to save money for students, we all put money together and we rode in a car. And to save money, we rode without ever stopping. So I would drive some of the time, and she would keep me awake, and others would drive other of the time, and then we would sleep, and we made it in something like 48 hours to go from Los Angeles to Minneapolis, Minnesota. I graduated and then thought of becoming a college teacher, a professor, and so we went. Fortunately, I got scholarships, and we went to the University of Colorado from California, where we were living. And Colorado was a nice place. We both enjoyed it. I graduated very quickly, which may have been a mistake, because most people took 2, 3, or 4 years, and I only took 2. And that meant I didn't get a lot of the professional associations I probably should have gotten. But at least we got out. We had one child at the time, and then at my first teaching job, professorial job, we had a girl. And then down the line at another institution, we had our other girl. So now we had a son and 2 daughters. In 1980, I had already started to look at, from a research standpoint, what is going to change our society. And I was looking at homosexuality and abortion and euthanasia. And it seemed to me that homosexuality would be very important. And right around that time, 2 big things happened in my life. First, I was called as an expert witness for the state of Texas in a federal trial. It was actually the first time I'd ever been to court, and I had the privilege of my opponents in the trial were those members of the Kinsey Institute, which were still left. My research, which had been published in a minor journal, led me to this post, this testimony. And at the time, I was sort of surprised. I, of course, reviewed all the literature that was then available. I was going to represent the state of Texas in a very important university. And I was curious, why was I being called from the University of Nebraska to defend Texas A&M University? Well, it turns out no one at Texas A&M University would testify against gay rights. They were afraid. This was 1980. We won the trial, and I was very gratified. It's always better to be on the winning side than on the losing side. But I was impressed that the Kinsey Institute, which had done a fair piece of research, had been very sloppy about what they reported and what they didn't report, that they were the experts on the other side. And also that no other professor from the institution would come and be on my side. Well, we won. I went home to Lincoln, Nebraska, and within months, a gay rights proposition was put before the city council. And so I was chosen to lead the opposition to demand that the people of Lincoln, Nebraska be allowed to vote on this issue. And so we had a contest, a political contest, that lasted about 6 months as to whether Lincoln, Nebraska, a very conservative state and a fairly conservative town in that state, was going to have gay rights. That is, it would be advantageous in hiring and so forth to be a homosexual. Well, we won very, very handily. I think we won something like 3-1 or 4-1. It wasn't 4-1. And they were defeated. And during that campaign, I started to realize this is not going to stop here. This is going to march all around the United States, perhaps the world. And we've got to start doing research so that when we go to court and the like, we have at least the kinds of research that can match what the other side does. And that's what led to the founding of our institute in 1982. We said, let's get together, see how many people will help us financially, scholarly, and perhaps we can beat these fellows politically and beat them scientifically. Time has moved on. The homosexuals decided at first to try and do science. And so the Kinsey data was almost all published. There was the gay report, a lesbian and a gay put out a massive study of 4,000 gays and about 1,000 lesbians. They went into all kinds of great detail about what homosexuals do, what they enjoyed in bed, what they enjoyed in restrooms, on and on and on, how often they had sex with children, etc. By the end, by around 1980, it was clear that this research could be used both ways. I and my colleagues certainly were able to use it, and their side was able to use it too, but it had problems. And then AIDS came on the scene. In 1981, the first gays with the disease were discovered in Los Angeles. By 1983, thousands of them were ill, hundreds of them had died, and I was engaged in trying to protect the blood supply. In the United States, many people donate blood to what's called the blood bank. You go to a place, they take blood out of you, usually about a pint, and then they store it for someone who has an accident or other kind of need. That's called a blood bank, even though you don't get anything for your blood, usually. And the people who get the blood have to pay for the storage and so forth. These blood banks very quickly became places where people who had never engaged in homosexuality, never had shot drugs, started getting ill. They started because the virus, which we didn't know for sure at the time, was carried in the blood. And about 5,000 Americans died eventually of being injected with this blood. I campaigned all over the United States to make sure that the blood banks would bar homosexuals. And even at that time, the medical community, particularly the blood bank community, were saying things like, no, we don't want to discriminate against anybody. if we discriminate against one group, what will happen when the next group gets something, and so forth. This would be wrong to tell people that their blood isn't good. Well, I argued what they do gives them this virus. We don't know exactly why, but they need to be discriminated against. This fight went on for about 2.5 years. And I went to Washington one day, and I was told in March of 1985 that I was going to get my wish, and they in fact barred homosexuals from donating blood. And that bar is in effect even until today. The homosexuals were very unhappy. They didn't want to be discriminated against. They are still unhappy about this bar. Sweden, I believe it was this year, removed the bar because they say, well, our tests now for the blood are pretty good. It's going to catch almost all the infected blood. So we'll, as Swedes, we'll just take the chance that one or two of us may come down with AIDS because of this the homosexual's blood. The United States has not gone that way, but the homosexuals are continuing to petition to have their blood accepted. We did a large random national study, a sexuality survey, similar to the survey that Kinsey and his group, similar to the survey that the Gay Report group did. And we have been publishing those results until probably the last publication was 2005. Now the Institute focuses on largely reviewing the world's literature and sometimes getting the databases from governmental surveys. When we started out in the early 80s, very little was known about human sexuality in a scientific standpoint. Yes, there was a Kinsey report and so on, but just about everybody realized it was very biased. Now, sexuality surveys are being done almost by every country with some regularity, and of course in the United States, often 2 or 3 times a year. So we review that data and we look for findings that are of interest. And of course, the homosexuals look for findings that also are of interest. And the scientific debate, such as it is, continues. As a Christian, I was concerned that this particular sin, homosexuality, was pointed out in the Bible, pointed to by Christian writers, fathers of the church, as being exceptionally dangerous, exceptionally wrong. John Chrysostom, for instance, perhaps Christendom's greatest preacher, said that homosexual activity was worse than murder. Given this, I felt that, especially since no one else had stepped forward, that I needed to step forward and spend a lot of time, and it turns out devote my life to confronting this particular movement and this particular evil. Life has been interesting. Bit by bit, the homosexuals have pretty much abandoned the attempt to prove scientifically that what they do is healthy, that what they do is okay. Instead, they have switched, and their rhetoric largely now consists of whining, of complaining, of saying we have all these problems because we are not accepted. And so I have, to a degree, won the argument, but not the debate necessarily. because the homosexuals are very, very good at whining, very good at saying, it's not my fault, it's your guy's fault. And so many countries, the EU, the United States, as a whole, has bought into their argument and has said, these poor people, they suffer. And I guess it's because it's our fault. So we should give them special protections. We should make up for all the ways that we haven't accepted them. Strange, because these people are contributing to the demographic problem. Strange, because these people are costing us enormous amounts of money. In the United States alone, each person with HIV costs our society about $700,000, and 550,000 gays are carrying this virus. Total, we are looking at about $1/3 of $1 trillion that they and their disease, just as one disease, are costing us. But they have successfully, generally, they have said, don't look at the costs and don't look at what we do. You are to blame. And by and large, especially women, women citizens, their heart melts and they say, we've got to help these guys. My wife has stayed with me all these years. We've been married now 53 years. Two? Seems longer. And we have 3 kids, 11 grandkids.
It's been an interesting life. I thought that I was going to marry a minister a long time ago and live in a little cottage somewhere in a small town. And that's not happened. Instead, I'm married to a man who's sort of hated around the world by the homosexuals, and we've had some interesting times. But it's been good, because we know that we're serving the Lord, and the Lord has been very good to us in so many ways. We may not be liked by people, but having the Lord is all that's necessary. When he first got started and got a lot of publicity when we were living in Nebraska, the homosexuals liked to come around and harass us. And one time he was on a trip and they called, and it was nighttime, and they said, we're going to kill him and we're going to kill your children. And of course this scared me, and a friend was visiting with us at the time, and he said Paul was away, and he said, well, he would stay there that night just in case they came back. Of course, I had the 3 kids to worry about. All the kids were in schools, and at that time they did not have fences around the schoolyards, so we had to ask the principals of the 3 schools to watch the kids. They were not particularly happy about that, because they would have to come in before the other kids came in from recess. So that was sort of difficult, and it was scary, but the police were very cooperative, and they would drive around the house, the neighborhood, and make sure that everything is okay. Oh, we get a lot of, or we got a lot of, not too much now, hate mail. We would have a pizza delivered to us that we didn't order. We would get magazines that we didn't want. We would get all kinds of phone calls. And this went on for quite a while. We finally had to take our phone number out of the phone book, because they kept calling, and they'd call in the middle of the night and threaten us. One night they came around and took our daughter's pet rabbit, and I thought for sure I was going to find the rabbit the next day all chopped up. Unfortunately that didn't happen, but these were the things that we contended with for a while. But it was worth it to keep fighting. Yes, there were times that I wished that I had that little ivy-covered cottage and married to a man that wasn't so controversial. But we continued, and here we are.